Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Office Hours. We're here every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and I'm so glad that you guys are all here to join us. So before I get started, I always like to start these episodes with a couple of announcements, and so there's just a few things I want to share with you. The first one, if you missed it, on Sunday here in the United States, we finally changed our clocks. So for those of you that may be in Europe or on a different time zone, if your time zone doesn't seem to match up with ours, it's because the United States just changed all of our time zone times. So we are now we're out of daylight savings and into standard time here. And I'm here on the East Coast, so it is right now noon Eastern. And so we'll be operating at this time going forward. So maybe update your calendars if things are slightly off for you. The second thing you should have noticed on Sunday, though, is that it was Alexa's 8th birthday. I hope you had a little cake or maybe a cupcake or something to celebrate. But it's hard to believe that we've been on this journey for 8 years already. As far as another milestone goes, Alexa is still trying to get to space. For those of you that have been following our Artemis launch efforts, we've had a couple of days that have had to been scrubbed. And so Artemis, its next scheduled date to be launched is November 14th, which is coming up next week. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing that finally go off so we can have the big celebration about Alexa in space. I think that'll be super fun. Finally, there was some conversation last week about the smart home protocol Matter. And for those of you that may not be familiar with this, this is a unified protocol across a number of vendors across the industry, all working together to make smart home and smart devices work better together. And we just published an article, I think the day after Office Hours last week, about its launch and some of the things that are coming up in the very, very near future. So we'll post a link in the chat and you guys can check that out. Finally, if you're in the Pennsylvania, maybe the Philadelphia area, there's a great software development conference coming up called Tech Bash. It's actually held in the Poconos, so it's about 2 hours north of Philadelphia. I'm actually headed there tonight, and the event starts tomorrow through Friday. So if you're in the area and you haven't already bought a ticket, or even if you have, look me up, find me. I'll be there. We have a booth. Amanda, our community manager, will also be there. So I'm really looking forward to Tech Bash. Okay, that's the end of my announcements. I want to get to the people I have here on the screen. So Michelle and Srimanthi, thank you guys so much for being here. I know you guys are here from the Alexa Shopping Kit team, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you about that. But could you do me a favor and introduce yourselves to the crowd?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Hey, folks. My name is Michelle Molinax. I'm the product lead of the Alexa Shopping Kit. I'm based here in Seattle with Shri. Shri, I'll kick it over to you.
Hey, folks. Thanks, Jeff, for introducing us. I'm Srimati. I'm the SDM. Engineering manager from the Shopping Kit team.
Great. Well, I'm glad you guys are here. I've certainly spent a decent amount of time playing with the technology that you guys are so focused on. But one of the things that is relatively new to the Alexa Shopping Kit is the ability to use Amazon Associates. And so I'd love to chat with you guys just a little bit about that. First, for those that may not be familiar, maybe a quick overview of what Amazon Associates is, for those that haven't had any experience with it. And then maybe just a quick glance at how it could potentially make them some money.
I'll go ahead and jump in and take that. Jeff, do you think it would be helpful to give the 30-second refresher on Shopping Kit?
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So you have the ability to shop on Alexa, right? So Alexa, buy batteries, Alexa, reorder dog food, Alexa, add to cart, etc.
You just sold so many batteries to people. I got to make sure my device.
I know. I'm so sorry. That's a problem folks at Amazon have all the time. Alexa, stop. So you have all these great features that we've built for Alexa natively, the ability to shop. What the Shopping Kit fundamentally does is take the security and the usability of all those core actions, right? Add to cart is an action, and makes it available in the form of APIs to folks who are building Alexa skills, so they can recommend products within their skills as well. So the example that I love to use is, let's say you make a yoga skill, gives you yoga tips, leads you through a class using Alexa's voice. You may recommend your favorite blocks or yoga mat. And if you were to, you would use Alexa Shopping Kit to recommend that product, which customers can then add to cart or buy, etc. And we're really, really excited about the integration of those actions of the Alexa Shopping Kit with the Amazon Associates program, because now 3P developers, those who are building these custom Alexa skills, finally have the opportunity to monetize all of those recommendations, to make money off of them. So the associates program, to get into what that is a program that's been around at Amazon a really long time, very successful program that allows third-party folks, so folks outside of Amazon, to earn commission from the qualifying purchases that they recommend. So most of the time you might see this like on a blog or on Instagram where folks say, shop my favorite Amazon products, and you have a link and you go to amazon.com, you buy that product, and that recommender will earn a small bit of commission for everything that folks buy that qualifies from their recommendation. So we're taking that benefit for folks who recommend Amazon products, bringing it to skills. So if you're that yoga skill developer and you recommend your favorite yoga mat for all the folks who are enjoying your Alexa skill, you may earn commission off of that recommendation. And we're really excited about this because you spend so much effort building these amazing skills and recommending product, right? It's an awesome incentive and monetization opportunity for you to make money off of all of that hard work.
That is excellent. All right, so now we can apply Amazon Associates to the shopping kit, which allows us to earn credit whether they're putting that in their cart or buying it. All of that is great. Now, for those developers that may have one or may not have one, if they already have an associate account, can they just use the one they've already had, or do they need to create a new one?
They can. Sri, I'll pass that one over to you.
Sure. So if you already have an associate account, just so associate accounts have something called as the store segments, which basically talks about what kind of stores do you sell in. Like, do you have a blog where you link all of these products? Do you have an Alexa skill? So just go update your secondary store to say, hey, I am going to do this on Alexa skills, and you can go ahead and use the same associate account. So you don't have to create new ones for each of these store types.
Great. And that leads me to another question, and I can even share my screen if it's easier, but this was a slight amount of confusion for me as I was getting into this, because I've had an associates account for a very, very long time, like probably 2001 maybe is when I first created mine. And there are two properties that I need to include in my code when I use my shopping action. In fact, let's do it this way. I have I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go with this. And then this. So I think everybody should be able to see my screen now. Perfect. So right here, you can see that in my buy shopping action, which is what I have here, I have this new attribution, which allows me to specify an associate ID and a tracking ID. Now, one thing that wasn't clear to me, because I'd never really done this other than copying some links from Amazon.com and sharing them on social media and stuff like that, was the difference between these two things. And so the reason that I'm asking this is because I have this screen here, and let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. So this is I'm logged into my Amazon Associates account here, and you can see that I have a store name, which is Thomas Worthing 2 or 20 up here at the top right. And then inside my account, I have these different tracking IDs, and I only had one. I created another one that is my name. But I think I'm correct in thinking that if I look at this code at the same time, that store ID is the associate ID, and the these tracking IDs obviously go to tracking ID. Is that an appropriate assumption?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay.
So essentially, as an associate, you can have multiple tracking IDs, right? If you're using your associate account for different kinds of things, let's say you are a developer or a recommender, and let's say you want something separate for kitchen based items and something separate to track all of your toy recommendations and how they do individually, that's when you could create those new tracking IDs. So your tracking ID will be partitions or will be on top of your store ID. And by default, when you create a store ID, that's the same as your tracking ID. So the very first ID is going to be same for both. And as you create new segments, you will have new tracking IDs, and you can add that as well. So you control how these revenues are getting tracked within your associate account. So it gives you a little bit more control.
Okay, that's great. And so by default, it's possible that those two values are actually identical for most people.
Yep.
Okay.
So on a
Perfect.
standard cases, like if you're not going and creating new tracking IDs, they'll be the same.
Okay. That's great. I don't know that that's noted in our technical documentation. I'm going to make sure I talk with our team about making sure that's mentioned, because that was the only like hint of confusion I got as I was going through this process. But thank you for the clarification. That's great. All right. So I've lost my browser with all of my information. Sorry. Okay. So you either need to create a new account that for an Amazon Associates account, or you need to use the one that you already have if that's something that you have available to you. If they're not an associate today, I assume they can still earn commissions. Is there a direct path for them to go set up an associate account?
Yeah, I believe that we linked to that from the technical documentation. You pop over to the Associate Central to sign up. And typically, when you're signing up, let's say you're that blogger or Instagrammer, TikToker, they would ask for you to include links from those artifacts. In this case, you're just going to include the link from your Alexa skill. You can think of that as your homepage. And then you would sign up as normal. It's a very easy sign up flow, take you 2 minutes. They'll ask for just basic information. How would you categorize this skill? What is it? We've updated the associates sign up to accommodate a 3P developers signing up for it. And once you're good, you can go back to your skill and incorporate.
That's excellent. I think this is an exciting way for developers to be able to make some money without having their own products to sell or services or something like that. And again, I don't think anyone is here promising millions and millions of dollars, but if you have a wildly popular skill and you are selling things as a result of that, you can do okay on these commissions. Just to set some examples for folks, I have used associates a number of times for projects outside of Alexa, right? Blog posts and social media and stuff like that. And there are some months where I get $5. There are some months where I've gotten hundreds of dollars. And so it really depends. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that what you're really doing is creating a shopping session for your user. And so when they click on an associate's link on the web, this is outside of Alexa, but when they click on a link on the web and they go to Amazon and they find the product that you link them to, whether or not they buy that or anything else during that session, those all are cataloged as part of your attribution. And so you can I was very surprised. I had a list of all of my favorite tech items one year as I was making a thing for Christmas. And the top selling thing I had, 4 different people, I don't know if it was recommended on the page or what, bought this giant bag of dog food, which was like $60 or something. And I was very surprised that I was like, I don't remember sending people to go buy dog food, but it was just that happened to be something else they bought while they were there. And so I would imagine this same idea works if we add things to a cart or something like that. They're still going to get attribution for that stuff, even if they come back later to buy it, right?
Shri,
You want me to take it?
Yeah, so we talk about attribution a lot on our team, which is why you saw this pause from me and Shri. Like, let's make sure to answer it correctly. I'll give context as to why it's an interesting question for us, and I'll let Shri give the correct answer for the folks. So what is uniquely different? There are lots of things that make interaction with Alexa different, right? We're talking to her. You don't have this concept of click. Similarly, you're not clicking from your blog, Jeff, onto Amazon. You're having a conversation, right? So what constitutes a session? What constitutes a click? So that's something that Shri, myself, and our engineers spend a lot of time thinking about. So Shri, what is the guidance you would give? And I can give a little bit more color about what might come in the future.
Yep. So as of right now, anything that you recommend directly, you'll get paid if they add it to their cart. So if you're using an add to cart action, they add it to your cart. They don't have to even check out on Alexa. If they go back to their retail page and check out, that'll still work.
Okay.
You will not have attribution for other things in the cart. For example, if you send them to buy a yoga mat, you will not get attribution for dog food that they buy along with it.
Perfect. That makes sense.
So because Alexa is very different from the retail world, this is kind of what we have right now. So anything you add, regardless of if they buy it immediately or not, you'll get attributed.
Okay. No, I think that's great. That's great feedback and an important thing to keep in mind.
Mhm.
One other question I had for you, and as you've seen, I have a project where I'm already incorporating a lot of this, which is exciting. But one of the things that I've run into as I've been building this is that I'm working on that buy action, right? This is a skill that I'm working on. It's for Alexa skill developers. And I thought it would be useful as they're working or interacting with the skill if they realize, like, hey, you know what? I want to do more with APL, but I really need an Echo Show to see the results of that. I want to order an Echo Show. And they just ask the skill to order them an Echo Show, and it'll order the device for them. And so in that buy transaction, as I'm testing it and making sure that it works and that my conversation flows the way that I want it to, I discovered pretty quickly that I was actually buying products. And so it was actually adding it to my cart. It was running the transaction. I was getting the same email that I would get if I bought it on Amazon.com. And quickly I had to run back in there and like cancel the order. So my question for you is there a good way to approach that? Is there anything I should keep in mind? Because it feels weird that I'm consistently buying a product and then canceling the order. And I just want to make sure that I'm not going to get my shopping account in any trouble. But two, is there anything from a developer side I should be thinking about?
So let's tag team this for you. The one thing I do want to add first is when you sign up for associates, if you're not already an associate, I do recommend, reading the code of conduct, reading the commission income statement, actually reading the things, which I know a lot of times when we're signing up for things, they're like, oh, okay. It's actually really helpful context. And within the code of conduct for associates, you'll see some things like, if we see you buying your own things, we'll detect fraud. We've incorporated use cases like that for Alexa specifically, because what's unique about 3P developers, folks who are building Alexa skills, is you're testing. We know that you're testing. So if you do what Jeff is describing, where you're working on your skill, you buy something, you have to cancel, or you keep it, right? You're buying something for yourself just as a use case, you will not flag on the associate side. We have put some mechanisms on the back end to accommodate for skills in particular. So something to keep in mind. But we totally understand that sometimes when we're testing our own devices here in Alexa shopping in the Alexa world, you have Amazon folks who will buy and cancel, though we try to limit it. Shri, do you have any advice for folks who are testing how they can go about this a little bit more efficiently?
So what we do in testing is we do go cancel. That's kind of what happens. So I'll give
Yep.
you a little bit more context on why we allow people to buy when they're in development, right? We do have certification process to make your actions available to the world. However, we don't want you to wait until the certification is done to try out how that looks like. So that's kind of why we allow you to see how the order goes through and how all the other experience would be from a customer standpoint. So it is live ordering that you're doing. It's just that in development, it's only you who can test it. So we're giving you that preview of what the world will look like if you implement this and it goes, you get it certified. So that's the context on why we let you do it. And canceling is the best way. So just go click cancel before it gets shipped.
Got it. And in the case that Michelle that you mentioned, where I'm selling products that are my own, right? So I shouldn't get a commission on that anyway. If I'm buying and canceling that, is there any concerns there? As long as I'm being reasonable about it, or is there some threshold or concern I should be worried about?
No, so no concerns. I wouldn't worry about it. If there are 500 purchases, some crazy number, nothing will flag on your end. Somebody might tap Shri and I on the shoulder, be like, something's interesting is happening with a skill, is something going on? So you might have some folks who are like, but it doesn't actually create any alarms or
Okay.
trigger any thresholds or anything like that. We understand that thorough
So
testing
it
takes a lot of
will it will get flagged just to be like it'll get flagged. It will not. There's no concern. It will not automatically ban you or
Got it.
anything like that. It will not put your account on hold. Nothing of that sort. If it is unreasonable, then we will kind of look at it, and someone might reach out.
Yeah.
But as long as it's all within reasonable testing effort and you're doing it when your skill is in development, I don't think that will be an issue.
And if you ventured into the unreasonable numbers, the first thing that would happen is you'd receive an email. You wouldn't just have your account shut down.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
somebody might.
that's all anyone needs to know.
Yeah, I think our biggest interest is like, do you need some support?
Yeah.
Right. What's going on? How can we help you?
Right. How can we help you avoid having to do that?
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right, we have a great number of questions and conversations happening in the chat, and so I'd love to get a couple of those to you. Gavin Watson has a question. Again, I don't know if you'll have answers to all of these questions. They love to ask really creative questions sometimes, so it's okay at all times to say I don't know, or that's not something we can discuss. So don't feel like you are on the spot to answer every question if you're not in a position to be able to answer something. Gavin Watson says, I have a question about associates in general, not Alexa specific. He does a lot of work around audio, including music, and he wanted to know why digital downloads don't qualify towards the associates program. I know we've also seen some other things that just don't work with shopping actions at all, like apparel, I know is something that we haven't really jumped into. So his question is, are there any tips on how he might be able to monetize promoting digital downloads from Amazon?
Sure, I can take that one. So I'll actually take an opportunity, thank you for the question, Gavin, to talk about what is and is not supported for associates on shopping actions today, and then we can talk specifically about digital. So like Jeff, you mentioned, not everything is supported on Shopping Kit as of this moment. So generally you can think of anything on the retail catalog is supported today. What is not supported but is coming, so a little hint into our long-term roadmap for Shopping Kit is grocery support. So think of anything from Amazon Fresh or Whole Foods, which we know we have a lot of skilled developers, who have food skills or recipe skills, who are really excited about that. So that support is coming. Digital, which I don't think is quite what you mean, Gavin. When we say digital, we mean like Amazon Music signups, Prime signups, that type of thing. Associates do earn a commission from recommending those and when folks sign up as well. Oh, Shri, I think I just conflated two different categories. So we have digital, so like audiobooks, etc., and then subscriptions, which would be the like Amazon Primes, Amazon Music signups. Both of those categories are not supported on Shopping Kit and are coming down the road today.
And some of these, just to add, Michelle, even if they do come on Alexa, some of these, if they're not supported on associates, they will still not be supported.
Right.
So in this case, music downloads, if they're not supported in associates in general, even if we launch the support to recommend those on your skills, you will still not have the support to monetize those.
Got it. So in that case, you'd still be able to sell those things through Shopping Kit, but you just wouldn't get any of the attribution that comes with.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But if you're recommending an Amazon Music Unlimited subscription or something like that, you would still get a bounty that exists today in the associates world.
Mm-hmm. One tip I would give for folks who are determining, what's going to actually make me money, what's not, is to actually look at the commission income statement. So commission income statement is something on Amazon's website under the associate documentation. So when you go to sign up, you'll see these links to the documentation for associates. They have this really beautiful, clear table of all of the different types of Amazon products, whether it's supported, and what commission you get depending on how you recommend it. So in this case, to help you decipher it, we talked a little bit about attribution earlier in this chat. It's direct attribution. So when the customer adds it to cart, or they buy it, or they add it to cart, and then they later go to their desktop and buy it. That would apply here. But if there are any questions about what does associates actually cover, what do they not? Like Shri said, we won't actually cover anything beyond that, but that's a really great table to look at to see all the nitty-gritty of it.
I just found you.
Yes. Standard commission income rates.
Yep. And so you can see like Amazon Games is as high as 20%.
Yep.
Which is fantastic. A lot of these hover in the 3, 4, 5. But then it also shows you things like gift cards do not. Those get 0. So, and then you can go, they also have like special bounties and all sorts of other stuff in here as well. And so those are all unique and time boxed as well. Well, thank you. I'm glad I could find that in time to refer to it on your on as you were sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a question here from Sekandar on LinkedIn. I don't know the answer to your question, but I want to make sure that I'm acknowledging it. I don't know that this is related to associates at all, Michelle and Sri, so I'll just kind of run with this one. But he says, how can we activate or deactivate? How can we activate our deactivated account under Section 3 Code of Conduct, or after 90 days? How can we get payment appeal plan of an action because I submitted but have not been successful? Maybe that is related to you. Do you know anything about like resolution options for people that maybe have had their associates account deactivated?
So that's not something I'm familiar with as of the resolution path for associates. That's a good takeaway for Shri and I to dig into because, the folks that we build for, the developers, are now part of this cohort. So we want to make sure to understand what that path is. Shri, do you have any sense of how they would reactivate a deactivation? Because I know we did some work to make sure that folks are not deactivated on the skill side, but any insight into this one?
No, but we can find out. We can
Mhm.
help them through CS contacts, and we'll add that to our tech documentation. We'll
Yeah,
take this feedback and add it, but I don't have an answer right now.
yeah. This is really helpful because we monitor these FAQs for our Alexa shopping kit FAQs,
Yeah.
and these seem like really good candidates of hey, there's this program. How does it apply to us?
Yeah, I would also wonder how it works if you previously to this had some bad experience with your Amazon Associates account and you got it disabled or deactivated, and now you see Alexa and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't had done that. I want to be able to use this with Alexa. How do they go through that resolution process? So that's I think that's probably a good thing to look into.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Brian Tarbox, who was a guest of ours a couple of weeks ago, says that whenever he's building something with shopping actions, he always just uses the add to cart function for his testing. That way you can add to cart over and over and over without having to go back and cancel and run. But I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there is a different conversation that you have with Alexa when something is added to cart versus the conversation that you have if it's actually being purchased. I would think there's at least an acknowledgement step, but I don't remember the specifics of each. I've played with them both, but that's accurate to think, right?
Yeah, that's fair. You can think of them, they are different actions, right? The
Yeah.
buying action will have a different conversation design than the add to cart action. And that's on purpose because we have to give slightly different information within the shopping action
Right.
that you guys actually connect to within your skill. So they're similar, but different. Brian's strategy is not a bad one. We take on that similar strategy all the time.
Yeah.
And I did want to make a note when your customers who are using your skills actually buy your product, that pattern of adding to cart on Alexa and then buying on .com is a really common pattern for customers. So if they're not actually buying directly from the skill or you choose not to incorporate the buy action, that's not necessarily an anti-pattern or anything like that. So Brian's thinking is very similar to ours.
Cool.
And just to add, we do have a new shopping action that was launched a couple of months back, just called as recommend shopping action. It's still in developer preview, but that kind of allows customers to choose between add to cart and buy,
Nice.
where you as the developer don't have to say you can only add to cart or you can only buy. So it gives the customers the choice to pick and choose. And maybe that is a good option as well, depending on the use case.
Yeah.
It is in developer preview, so reach out to us and we'll kind of set you up so you can participate in that developer preview, and that will also be launched as generally available in the long-term roadmap.
Got it. That's great. All right, Tapster mentioned that he asked the question that you've already answered, Michelle, which is, are there any plans to allow prime pantry or groceries? It currently says those categories are not eligible, and so, as you mentioned, this is on the roadmap currently, and so we're looking forward to seeing that in the relatively near future.
In the relatively near future. So yes, that is coming. Groceries coming. We're very excited about grocery because we know that consumables, grocery items, ingredients are really hot, really coveted for developers. So we're excited to be launching that in the relatively near future.
Nice.
Mhm.
All right. Brian Tarbox says in relation to shopping actions that he got a certification failed because it was missing some required description text, but that text was not in the online description of the required text. I think, I don't know if he means the required text there, but it sounds to me like the description text was missing from the product. And so the certification failed as a result of that. Have you guys seen any issues with certification regarding this at all? And
So-
again, these questions come from everywhere, so it's okay if you don't specifically know the answer.
So we do have a description text on the tech documentation. That's what we expect.
Mhm.
I'm curious, and maybe Michelle and I can follow up offline as well on what text that was, because we have the same text between our tech documentation and what we do in the backend.
Got it. Okay. Another thing that would be interesting, I'm looking to see right now if I don't think we've created this yet. I don't know if either of you are involved in our Slack community. We have an Alexa community Slack. I always look for an opportunity to do a commercial about it during every episode. So I'm going to do that now. But for those of you, Michelle and Sri specifically, but also anybody in the audience, if you're not already a part of our Slack community, you can join here. It's a public, free community of software developers that are thinking all about what's going on with Alexa and voice and ambient computing. We're coming up. I think we're going to hit 3,000 people in the community by the end of the year, which is pretty cool. But one of the things that I was going to share with you, and we can talk about this offline, but if you'd like, we could set up a specific channel inside that community that's focused on shopping actions or the shopping kit as a whole. That would give people a place that are talking about this or running into issues or whatever to be able to share their thoughts and ideas there. And then if you check in once in a while, you can also see what they're saying and potentially guide them in the right direction as it makes sense. Again, it's not a formal support channel, and I want to make sure I'm clear to everybody about that fact. If you have specific support needs, that's what our Contact Us form and other things are for. But if you just want to have a discussion or you're not sure how to solve a problem, Slack can be an excellent place to do that. And maybe we can get Michelle or Sri or some of their teammates to join us there as well. I think it's a great place to have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah. Big plus one to that. I think Sri and I are both in the Slack community, but I love this idea of having a dedicated space.
Okay.
I know these questions about shopping kit come up every so often, right? In the discussion, and Sri and I often miss them because folks haven't necessarily met us, don't know to tag us, and these questions can go unanswered. So if you want to say hi to us, we are there today. I know that there were some very specific questions about integration. Feel free to ping us, but yeah, let's definitely look into having a shopping kit space, especially as we continue to release new features and there's more to play with.
Great. See if I can, oh my gosh, I've already gotten you both. So here's an update for everyone. While Michelle was talking, I created the channel and invited both Sri and Michelle to that channel. So you'll be able to find them there. There's a channel in Slack called Alexa Shopping Kit. And you'll be able to find them hanging out there and hopefully have some good conversations with all of them. So awesome. I was glad we were able to do that in real time. That's great.
Yeah. Another plug, since we have that channel, if you're interested in learning more about Recommend, which is in developer preview, which Sri mentioned, that's a great place to ask about it. So you can ping us directly or ask in that channel. That would be a great way to learn more.
Cool. And Tapster's already there. This is excellent. Okay. Superfull X on Twitch said, I've been in IT for 4 years. I love IoT and have a big interest in Alexa building. I did see that the Alexa skill building certification was retired. Is there any advice on if there is a different certification to get and how to be proficient enough to gain employment at Amazon? Thank you, guys. There's a lot to unpack there. The first thing I'll share with you, Superfull, is that we have a fantastic tutorial called Cake Time. My recommendation would be, if you haven't done any skill building before, would be to go through that tutorial. It not only teaches you the basics about what intents and slots and utterances and all of those voice concepts pull together to be and how they work and how you should use them, but it also walks you through things like APL, which is the language that we use to put things on displays like this screen here. So in all of those cases, I would always recommend starting there. As far as a certification to get, I don't know that there's one that necessarily gets you to a place where you're like, hey, I'm an expert Alexa developer. That was the Alexa skill building certification, which, as you mentioned, has been retired. But the technologies that live behind it, if you look at things around Lex, which is the chatbot engine that really Alexa was spawned from, as well as things like Lambda, which is just a serverless technology. If you look at those and get some expertise built up on those two technologies, I think that you'll find that you're well on your way to really being an expert Alexa developer. But the key more than anything is just to build something cool. You can go read and do all your research and whatever, but until you've done it, taken an idea and gotten it all the way through certification and gotten some users and grown and changed, that's your certification. That's the thing that you're really looking for. So more than anything, I think that would be my recommendation. All right. Gavin said he was asking about song downloads mainly. He was the one asking about Alexa, associates and using songs like that. And he says, is there any information regarding why music downloads are not supported or qualified? I would assume that you guys probably don't have insight into those specific rules. That's an Amazon Associates question. But I would imagine somewhere someone knows the answer to that question. I just don't think that the three of us have that visibility.
Yeah, it might be hiding in an FAQ somewhere.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to use the contact forms on Associates and say, hey, I am a customer who has an interest in this thing, and express that interest. But we don't necessarily have the deep insight into what qualify or why something qualifies and why something doesn't on the Associate side.
So Brian Tarbox likes to ask very hard questions. This is a good one. He wants to know if there's a way for a skill to let someone buy something from someplace other than Amazon. Can I say, go to this link to purchase these other things? So my recommendation here is it comes back to our primary monetization mechanisms. If you're selling something from somewhere else, but it like ties into your skill, it's digital content, maybe it's unlocking new content packs or something like that, that's your traditional ISP route. If you're selling physical goods and services like plumbing services, or you're ordering flowers, or you're buying some other physical good from some other website, that is generally where we lean into Amazon Pay. So Amazon Pay allows you to buy physical goods and services from any website, or from any vendor, I should say, using Amazon Pay as the mechanism to do that. The only other step that I've seen for this, and I don't think it relates to Associates or Shopping Kit at all, but for those of you that aren't familiar with it, there's actually a wonderful plugin for browsers that is called the Amazon Assistant. And this Amazon Assistant tool actually allows you from any website to click one button, and it basically adds it to your wish list on Amazon.com. It's a good way to consolidate and keep track of all of the products that you may be looking for shopping, especially as we head into the holidays and you're making lists of things. I find that to be incredibly valuable because now I can rely on my Amazon wish list to be the place that I keep track of all of the things. And it still gives me the mechanism to click on it and go directly to the website where I can buy the item. But as far as happening inside a skill, I don't know of any other mechanisms, but Michelle and Suri, if you have something secret that you'd like to share at this moment, I'll happily listen.
Nothing secret. I think you did a really good overview. Those are the big buckets that you went through. But yeah, we're super biased. We're really excited about the monetization opportunity from Shopping Kit. So we will stand on that hill. But I think that all of those are really great avenues because different products have different needs.
Yeah. Let me ask another hard question. If there was a mechanism that a developer could use to, I think about like how ISPs are built, right? So as a developer, when I build ISPs, I basically create a small JSON file that has all the data and pricing and everything about my product. And that JSON file is my product. Do we ever imagine a mechanism in the world where I could go in and offer a whole bunch of other different kinds of products, physical goods and services, in a similar mechanism, where I'm basically handling the fulfillment without having to rig up all of the Amazon Pay, all of the other pieces that go into trying to make those things work? Because that is a lot of work for a developer when all they really want to do is just sell you a thing, get a notification, ship it out through their normal mechanisms. I know that this is kind of adjacent to what you guys are doing, but is that something that we ever imagined being possible?
So it is adjacent, but it is also something that we could imagine being possible because one thing that Shri and I talk a lot about, and I know that the other teams who are building these features that you can incorporate in skills also talk about a ton as well, is how can we make it easier, right? How do we not just throw a bunch of things at developers and say, pick and good luck? So I think that general integration of features to make it easier, um, less coding to incorporate these features, right? To make it more accessible to folks, especially if you're new to skills, which most people are, is something that we think about a ton. So as far as the shopping kit, what's coming for the rest of the year and in 2023 and beyond, it's a lot of wider coverage, adding digital support, adding grocery support, bringing associates, which we did not mention, by the way, is available in the US and UK, bringing
Nice.
it to the rest of the world, right? The other places that Alexa skills are supported. What also we think about in our roadmap is how can we make these things easier to integrate with just on the shopping kit side, but also together with other features. So I know that's not a super specific answer, but I do really want to affirm this thinking that we have of how can we build these things to make it easier for developers to give them more flexibility and speed.
Great. I love it. I like that we're continuing to focus on innovation for developers too.
Yeah.
How can we make their job easier to not only serve their customers, but also to make some money, sell the products that they want to sell. It's exciting. All right. So Jake Zeladon on Twitch says, why do I have to send a permission card? If I'm asking the user if they provide permission, and in that way I don't cut the flow they have inside the skill, when I send it to certification, it's failing for not providing a permission card. My understanding is that you still have to send that permission card because there's the possibility that a conversation could be interrupted or broken, and you still want to give the user a way to grant your skill permission. It's not I don't believe that it's a major effort to send a permission card, right? It's just one more aspect of sending your response back to the user. But I do believe that is a requirement. I could be wrong. I haven't spent a ton of time recently with our permissions model, and I know now that we have voice first permissions that changes things as well. But I believe that you still have to send that permission card just so that they can do it from their device, even if it does mean they leave the conversation. So, Jake, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think that's still the policy as far as I know. Sanchit Sharma on YouTube says, can someone help to start with Alexa skill, like how to start and how can it be helpful? Is it helpful in career aspects also? I have a couple of things to say here. First, I mentioned that we have a great tutorial called Cake Time. It's a really good introduction to all of the core concepts that you'll need to think about building future Alexa skills beyond that one. But you also mentioned, is it helpful in career aspects? It is my perspective that being able to understand how voice works, what ambient computing looks like, and how a user communicates with a computer is a very valuable skill. In the same way that there are lots of very capable programmers as well as designers that understand how people interact with mobile devices, how they interact with the web. They're all very specific sciences about how we think about user interaction and how we provide a great user experience. And so I think that anytime you can invest in yourself to learn more about any of these kinds of technologies, you're doing yourself a favor. So yeah, from that perspective, I think this is absolutely valuable to career. I wouldn't say that like your career won't go on without Alexa. As long as you're investing in something, I think that's valuable. But Alexa and voice in general, I think is something that is only going to become more and more prominent, and having that skill set on your tool belt will be useful. All right. Okay, Brian Tarbox said, I specifically want to let people buy experiences or shout outs or participate in raffles. So I think I'll have to look at Amazon Pay. And then he asks if anyone else in the audience has used Amazon Pay within an Alexa skill, and can he pick their brain? So one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about what Brian is trying to do is he's actually working directly with a lot of sports teams. And he wants people to be able to purchase an experience, like being able to have a locker room tour or something at a venue, or let's imagine that you, like, one of your favorite players plays on a team, and you want to get a video shout out recorded where they just record 30 seconds of like, hey Jeff, how's it going? So glad you're here. Really glad you're a fan of the team. One of those kinds of shout outs. He's looking for ways to sell those kinds of opportunities. They're not exactly physical goods and services, but they're not exactly digital either. And I think that's one of the tricks that he's run into, because he tried to do this with ISP and wasn't allowed. Now it gets a little fuzzier as we start talking about things like raffles or anything that even remotely resembles gambling, where everybody buy a ticket and then we'll pick a winner. Like, that stuff is generally not allowed. But that doesn't mean that you can't find creative solutions to those problems outside of the immediate Alexa ecosystem. So hopefully that helps a little bit, Brian. But that's my perspective on it today. Okay, so we have reached a point where I've gotten to the end of the comments and questions, which is always good. There's always this last minute flood. As soon as I mention this, Michelle and Sri will get like 30 more questions that come in. Oh, it's my turn to pop something else in there. So if you guys have any more questions, we'd love to have them. In the meantime, is there anything, without giving away the farm or sharing anything that wouldn't be appropriate, is there anything else that you can tell us about what your big picture plans look like for shopping in the future?
I can speak a little bit to it. So I'm repeating a little bit, but very happy to share that the folks who have been pinging us on Slack and other channels saying, hey, I live in India. Hey, I live in Germany. When are you going to bring associates to me? I'd like to make money off of our skills. That is going to be a big focus for this team, is making sure that anybody who's building skills has the ability to monetize those skills. So happy to share that we are bringing associates to the rest of the world. Currently, it's launched in just the US and the UK. And it's, by the way, it's based on where your skill is. We have a lot of folks saying, I have a US based skill, but I'm developing from India. No problem. US based skill, you're good to go to integrate with associates. So that rest of the world integration, we're really excited about. We had mentioned the additional categories as well. So more opportunity to integrate more products. And otherwise, we're looking for, again, no code options, easier options. How can we take these actions that we've already made available for developers and make them easier to use?
Cool.
And new kinds of actions as well to add on to Michelle. We supported, or I think we announced in Alexa Live that we'll bring in support for adding to list. So that's another option that we have in developer preview today. As I mentioned, recommend, which allows the customers to do a few different kinds of actions. So all of these new kinds of actions that you can leverage and have a different customer experience than, hey, I want to present this one product to you, right? So those things which will make it more natural for you to flow will also be in the future. And so why we do these different kinds of actions is certain, for example, if you're doing holiday recommendations, right, you want a list of products, you'd probably add it to your list and buy your add to cart at any point. So depending on how you're using it, we want to be able to give you a suite of tools and suite of products that will make you or help you make the right decision for the customer and innovate on behalf of the customer. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
I like that. Yeah, one of the other things that I've run into with ISP quite frequently, and I don't know if it's on your roadmap. I'm just here to offer friendly advice. But the ability to offer a variety of things. So I'm thinking specifically about the skill that I'm working on. Developers may want to buy an Echo device as they're talking to my skill. And I currently have the ability with just voice where I can catch any of the kinds of devices you might say. So if you say Echo Show 15, then that will be the one that I put into your cart for you. But it would be really nice for me to be able to say, hey, I have 4 or 5 products that I recommend when you're looking for an Echo. If you want one with just voice, I recommend the Echo Dot. If you want a small screen one, it's the Echo Show 5. And if you want something that's really great and big on your wall, let's look at the Echo Show 15. Which one do you want? It would be nice to be able to just hand off a pile of products, maybe a limit of 5 or something, but then allow the user to either add all of them or a couple of them or whatever into the cart. And I suppose I could probably try to do a lot of that on my own, but the ability to add multiple products to a cart today isn't possible. At least I don't think it is.
So the recommend shopping action allows you to recommend multiple products, up to 10 products.
Ahead of me.
So however, it does not allow you to add all the 10 products at the same time.
Okay.
So we have control. We display all the 10 products, and we'll allow the customer to go click through each of them and decide whether they want to buy a particular thing or not, right? buy or add to cart on a particular item or not, and they can scroll through, look at the same thing a couple of times. All of that is possible. The restriction there wouldn't be, hey, we will not say that you recommend this for a small screen versus a big screen. You'll hand off all the products. You can model it in such a way where in your introduction you say, hey, these are all the echoes that I recommend for different purposes. Each has a different spec, so see what makes the best use for you and hand it off.
I like it. All right, I have one more shopping action question. This just popped into my head, and I can't believe I didn't ask it earlier. Now it's escaping me. I wanted to talk to you about shopping actions because, oh man, it's completely gone. So I'm going to take a question from the audience here, and then hopefully that comes back into my head because I thought it was going to be really helpful, and now I don't remember what it was. Okay, so Feng Elm asks, when my skill quality score increases or decreases, is there a way to get details on what specifically caused that? For those of you that aren't familiar, if you have a skill, you can have a skill quality score. You can find that in your analytics. And that skill quality score indicates the quality of your skill. And it's based on a variety of factors across the things that we've identified as the things that make skills the most engaging, the most successful. And so I don't believe today, because the skill quality score can change day to day, I don't believe that there is a specific indication of exactly what changed or how it changed. Kind of like you would think of like if you have a credit reporting app, right? You can go in and say, why did my credit score go down? And then you look and you're like, oh, I got a car loan. That's why it went down, or whatever it happens to be. So that's a good question, but I don't think that they provide that today. But I am going to add that to my list of things to share with that team because I think that's something that might be interesting or important. And Michelle and Sri, my question popped back into my head. So the question was going to be, and you can be as frank about this answer as you'd like. With ISPs, if I sell a product, I have the ability to know whether or not the user bought the product, right? I get a response back that says, hey, they bought this thing, it was successful, so that I can then use it in my skill. I found with shopping actions, of course, that we don't do that. All we do is return and say that it didn't fail, but we don't give any indication as to whether or not the user actually purchased the product, which sometimes as a conversation designer makes it challenging for me to think about what I should say next. Because if they didn't buy it, if they declined the offer or whatever it happened to be, I would want to recommend that product to them again in the future. But if they did buy it, I would want to cut that off and not recommend that product to them ever again. I know that today we don't give any indication to the developer about whether or not the user actually bought the product. Is that something that we ever anticipate changing in the future?
Not, Michelle, I'll take that. Not in the very near future. So we do support analytics. So we would give aggregated data. So if you go to your analytics tab, you can see, hey, I proposed this product 10 times. You can even go filter by ASIN to see which ASIN does well, which doesn't. And out of the 10 times I presented, 4 people actually converted, like they added to cart or they bought it, right? So you can see that metric at an aggregated level. The unique thing, unlike ISP, where the skills do the delivering or the fulfillment, when it comes to Amazon, we handle all of it. And for customer privacy, we don't give that out as of today.
Yeah,
And we don't plan to do that anytime soon.
Okay. I certainly get the customer privacy perspective. It just makes it a little more challenging for a developer to decide how and when to recommend a product if I don't know if they've already bought it. That's all. I almost feel like it would be interesting. I know we've done some things with permissions with APL where I can display a user's name or even their wake word, but programmatically I don't, as a developer, have access to that thing. It would be interesting to provide some kind of, again, I'm just spitballing here, but it would be interesting to provide some kind of mechanism where if I try to recommend a product to a user and they have already purchased it in the last 3 months or whatever the time frame is, that they get a completely different response. Something that I don't control, nor do I know what happened, but that the Alexa engine could at least say something like, I don't know how we would handle this exactly, but like, I was trying to recommend you a product, but it looks like maybe you've already purchased it, or maybe there's some other more creative way to solve that problem. But I do know that this is something that developers are going to run into frequently, which is, as Michelle mentioned, the yoga skill, right? I want to sell you a yoga mat. Well, I sold you a yoga mat last week. That's not a thing I need every week. And it would be kind of annoying if once a week or once a month, I'm like, hey, don't forget, we have these awesome yoga mats. And you're like, I know, I already bought one. So that's the only trick that we really run into with this. But I completely understand the perspective on customer privacy.
Yeah. So the interesting part there is it's not just one skill that's recommending. There might be 10 yoga skills with 10 yoga mats, but a person just needs one, right? So we'll look at that on how we can solve it on once we get the handle, we get the control. But I don't think we would say whether someone has purchased this previously or not.
Understood.
But maybe we'll figure that out on, hey, how do we give a different CX?
Understood.
Can I give a quick note on conversation design around that? So especially as we continue to add different types of products that are supported on Shopping Kit and also associates, you're going to design your conversation differently for that. So this feedback with the yoga skill and the yoga mat is an excellent example. You're not going to buy a yoga mat every 2 weeks, right? Every time you engage with this skill. So that's really good feedback for Sri and I to take back to the team because it's a good use case. When we add grocery, you may go back to that skill for the recipe and buy those ingredients over and over and over again.
Right.
So when you're thinking about, what's the handoff and response that I give to the customer after I use shopping action, I would keep in mind what the product is, right? How often are they able to actually purchase it or would reasonably purchase it? How often should I be updating the ASINs? So the products that I recommend my skill as well. So keeping that flexible design thinking on when you're incorporating Shopping Kit.
I like that. It would also be interesting then if we're talking about the developer changing out their ASINs regularly. If there was a way to do that without having, like, if there was a way to, like in the developer console, have a list of products that they want to sell, so that they don't have to go in and actually change their code and do a new deployment and go through all of those steps. Again, just thoughts for the future, but that might be interesting to look at as well. All right, we are coming up on the end of our hour. I will tell you that we do one of these every week, and it's very rare that I look at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, we still have so much time. That's usually a good indication to me that we're having an awesome conversation and there's lots to unpack and dig into. More often than not, I look at the clock and I'm like, how is there only 6 minutes left, right? So it's I really do appreciate the time and the engagement and the information you've been able to share with all of us. This has been absolutely excellent. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Really excited to chat today.
Yeah. And for everybody in the audience, thank you all for tuning in as well. The questions are always excellent. Again, if you want to find Michelle and Sri, but also anyone else, whatever topic you're looking for related to Alexa development, make sure to find us in Slack. We're there all the time. There's lots of questions being asked, and I'm bringing more and more of the folks from Amazon in to help answer the questions